What's up, nerds? Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the book that was the winner of the DC's round robin competition on Twitter or whatever. And before I show the cover, before you even say anything, just know when I went to the comic book store, this is the one they had picked out for me, and it was the only one there. Not that I'm mad at it, but I know that someone's going to say that I picked this for a reason. No. I'm not mad at it, though. So we're going to talk about Robin's number one. Alright, so like I said, I did not pick this cover. If you're sitting there thinking like, oh, of course Dylan got the one where Dick Grayson's all shirtless and shit, I'm not mad at it, but I didn't choose it. I showed up and they were like, oh yeah, we went ahead and put this one aside for you. It was like the last one we had. I was like, alright, that's fine. I'm not mad at it, but well, if I had the choice, I wouldn't have picked it. Honestly, if I'm being 100% honest, I wouldn't have picked it just because, like, it would have been too obvious. You know what I mean? So I was like, no, that's fine. If it's the one you have for me, I'll take it. So anyway, let's just get into the story itself. So we start out with this whole thing where we have this little, like, poem or rhyme or whatever the hell, as we see, like, a robin feeding its, like, little babies and shit, and one of them falls out, and this chick catches it and is saying, like, and, you know, because she finishes the poem by saying, and said to Robin Redbreast, I love thee not a bit. So then we see where she throws a fucking grenade into the nest, which is just terrible. We already see what an awful human being she is. So she does that, and then there's this, like, group of bird watchers and shit who are just, like, right by the tree. They're talking about what's going on, about like, how they can see all the different birds or whatever, and then it explodes. So she's walking away, still holding the little bird, saying, like, you tell him, love. That's what we do to the boys who kick us out of the nest. So you can already see where this is going. Anyway, we go over to this whole thing with some anarchies. Because it's not like the actual anarchy. It's just like people who have been inspired by anarchy, who are kind of conducting their own little thing. And we get some of the stuff that's just, I mean, you can tell they were trying to talk about a very specific type of person, I'm assuming. He says here, a corrupt city government is aided by the long tendrils of the deep state. Individual freedoms are plucked away one at a time by politicians who then build a temple to their own greed with the bones of the young. So we must bring the edifice of their denial down into the sewers where it belongs, just as the words of anarchy tell us. And I mean, all of this is it's very overly, like, they're trying to be poetic and lyrical, but I can kind of understand and agree with some of what's actually said here. Anyway, so that's when they get set upon by, like, the robins and everything. It says, but Mr. Neg, won't the weekend cleaning staff be coming in right about now? They could get hurt. So he's like, well, so be it. This city votes overwhelmingly for these people. They call the devotees of anarchy conspiracy theorists. Democracy is a sham, and the people of Bloodhaven get what they deserve. So this is when Nightwing shows up and says, like, all you DOA guys running around thinking you're deciphering messages from a message board. Can't you just do us all a favor and go play Dungeons and Dragons instead? So he's kind of standing there and they kind of try and charge at him. And the leader is saying, like, there's another reason the Haven is perfect. While Gotham has the Batman, this rotting pit has his cast-offs. So it's saying, like, oh, no, it's Nightwing. So he's like, oh, you have nothing to fear from sidekicks. So he calls them Storm and Drang, which, I mean, that comes from, like, the German term Sturm, with a U, and Drang, also the same, which is, like, storm, obviously. And the other one is, like, hardship or something like that. Something like that. I looked it up one time and I can't remember specifically what it is right now, but something like that. Anyway, so he says, show this sheep how serious we are. So Nightwing is telling him, like, oh, I already have better roles for y'all. And he says, like, one of them can be a bard, I think. No, a cleric, and then the other one has big paladin energy, he says. So the guy is, like, seeing them fighting. He's like, go, devotees, negate evil, ostracize the sheep, step with me into a better world. So that's when he has, like, the lights turned on him, where the other two, Damien and Tim, are coming at him and shit. And they're calling Tim right now Red Robin, even though he's not really in the Red Robin costume. He's just in a Robin costume. So anyway, they're kind of talking to each other, and Damien asks him like if there's something on his mind. He says maybe if you were less passive aggressive and more actively aggressive, you could be trusted to fight on your own. So Tim tells him, and maybe if you weren't so focused on having the last word, you'd be paying attention when we get rushed by keyboard cultists. So that's when they continue running, like the cultists keep running. They're like, Mr. Neg, please hold on, not so fast. And he's like, at ease, neophyte. To follow the word of anarchy means to give up oneself in service of a greater idea. Your work on the bomb is much appreciated. So they're like trying to tell him, like, no, that's not what we mean. We mean because there's a trap. Like there's one of these like tripwire type of things. So he gets immediately snagged on the damn throat by it. And we can see where Spoiler is there, and she's like, "Okay, dude, like just give me your hand, help us, I'll help you up, help us disarm the bomb, and then we'll kind of just let you, we'll figure it out from there." And so he's saying like, "No, I'm not going down for this. They'll take me off unemployment. So back off, or I'll take a few pounds off this little fluffy sheep," because he takes like one of his own like cultists or whatever and has a knife to his throat. So she's trying to like calm him down, and then he's like, "No, you're not going to get me to calm down." She's like, "Oh no, that's fine. I was just trying to get you like into position and give Red Hood enough time to deal with you." So he's like, "What?" So we see Red Hood comes up and tries to like, I guess, either stab him or cut him from the back. And then he's saying, like, guys like you fight in the system, not because it's unjust, because you like the old unjust system better. Huh? I don't really know what he meant by that, quite honestly. Anyway, so he says, the hell? You should be wondering how you're going to type your bullshit with one hand by now. So the dude tells him, like, well, I have reinforced vestments, and that's kind of what stopped him. Because as you can see, Red Hood has a sword. Like in other books, they have him with, like, crowbars and shit now, but apparently here he has a sword. So again they managed to like trip him up, or Spoiler manages to trip him up, and then she's saying like, we're gonna let those guys swing their manhoods for a bit. Now the password to the bomb, you were gonna give it to me, because she's talking to the other one. So he says, no, they told me there were people who'd be kind and supportive, but I know that's just another way to bring a sheep into the flock. Only anarchy is truth. So she knocks him out, and she's saying, like, if I wanted to hear some villain, like, ranting and shit, I'd call my dad. So she takes the bomb that's strapped to him and throws it over to Red Hood, and is like, I hope you have some sort of way to, like, deal with this thing. He's like, actually, yeah, I do. So he uses his little, like, grapnel launcher thing to trip the leader, and then he throws the bomb at him that explodes like pretty close to them. She's like, no, not like that, damn it. So she tries to like call out to Nightwing, saying like, I don't know if you can hear me, because I can't hear anything, but I thought you should know we lost our chance at getting the password, so I hope you've got it figured out. Because we can see Damien and Tim are trying to figure out. Damien is over here telling him, like, Tim, this isn't work. Well, he calls him Drake. He's like, this isn't working, Drake. Your like technology is not fast enough or advanced enough or whatever. And Tim tries to tell him, like, dude, it's code names only. Remember that when we're in the field? He's like, please, you're the genius who temporarily called himself the Drake. Y'all remember that? When they tried to tell us, like, oh, Tim Drake finally has his own identity. Now he's going by Drake. And I was like, really? It's just his last name? Like, that's stupid. So that definitely didn't last long, because now they're back to Red Robin. So we'll see how much longer that lasts. Anyway, they come up, and Nightwing's asking, like, what did Batman teach us? All of us. He says, when all of the technical skills fail in the fight against evil, what do we always know? So that's when they like recite the whole line about, villains are a superstitious and cowardly lot. And then Damien's saying, like, in other words, they're not that imaginative. So apparently the password was just the letter A. Or maybe it's A exclamation point, but just A. I was like, really? Like, not even anarchy, not even the whole word? You know what I mean? Like, I get it. You're trying to say they're not very imaginative or whatever, but I'm pretty sure they would at least use the whole damn word. Like, what type of password is just one letter? You know what I mean? Anyway. So, and especially, how would you not have been able to figure that? Whatever. So they do manage to shut this shit down, and then Nightwing tells them, like, yeah, see, Batman's lessons just keep on giving. And then they bring, like, the one of the guys over, and he's asking, like, well, where's Mr. Neg? And he says, not enough left to carry. So he's like, we're going to have words, Red Hood. We're going to have a lot of words. Anyway, he says he's going to put in, like, a call to the BPD, Bloodhaven Police. Anyway, so they're like, okay, we're taking off now. Damien and Jason just try and like walk away, and then Nightwing's like, not so damn fast. We're all actually gathered together, which means we're going to do the thing. So Jason's just like, damn, I tried, man. And Damien's saying, none shall escape the shadow of the Nightwing. So now is when we go over to the just goofy part. Not that there weren't some goofy moments in that fight, but well, at least that was at least mildly entertaining. Now we get over to this part where they're all assembled at Nightwing's place or at Dick's place, and Damien is complaining, saying like, if you were going to force us to come all together, couldn't you have at least had air conditioning? So Tim is telling him like, yo, calm down. He got all of the little like, travel size cereals that you like. And I can relate to that. I do like those too. When I was a kid, my mom used to always buy those for us because she likes them too. So that's what I'm saying. Like when I saw that, I was like, all right, not bad. So anyway, he's telling him like, grab some snacks, pop an ice cube and some coffee, and sit your entitled ass down. So Nightwing saying like, I appreciate it, but yeah, this isn't really like the best spot or whatever. Except we all agreed this was the best and maybe only time to do what we've been needing to do for a long time. So Damien sits down, he's all pissed off that there's no chocolate checks. But then Nightwing says that basically they're here to talk about how they were all Robin and whether or not that was a good thing. Why? Why do y'all need to discuss that in particular? Like, why is that a topic of discussion for y'all? Whether or not it was a good thing? Like, y'all did it. Y'all lived through it. You're here. Like, why do y'all need to sit down and have some sort of like group therapy about like, well, let's talk about our feelings, everybody. How did you feel being Robin? And how did you feel being Robin? So that's basically what we're about to see. Where he's saying, like, I was the first one, I'm the oldest of us, and I realized, like, I didn't always respond well if everybody didn't just love being Robin and shit like that. So he says, what always mattered to me was that Batman does so much good, but to do that good, he needs to stay in the shadows. So I chose to be Robin and be the light in the darkness for him and all that. And that's what he talks about, like, I wasn't always very supportive of complaints as I could have been. This is a hard job, a dangerous job. Everyone came to it their own way. Everyone takes to it their own way. But we're a family now. And if I'm going to help or make things better for all of you or anyone who comes after, I need to listen. So that's when Stephanie speaks up as like, I should go next. I was Robin for the shortest time at 71 days. And then Tim corrects her by like 48. You were suspended for 3 weeks. And he's like... Dick has to cut him off and be like, Tim, he's like, all right, yeah. So she's saying, like, I graduated to being Robin from Spoiler and everything, and I loved it. It was, a great time and everything. She says, me, the daughter of a third-rate supervillain, wearing the mantle of the legendary Boy Wonder of Gotham City. And then she says, but I broke the rules, and then so Batman took the mantle back. And now sometimes I wonder if I'm like an athlete who peaks in high school, placing my value in something I'll never be again. And then we go over to Tim. I don't understand what's going on with his face right here. See this like close-up shot on him? I'm like, why are your eyes like that? You look like you're waiting for some more Coke or something. Anyway, so he's talking about, I basically asked to be Robin, and then he kind of like corrects that by saying like, well, actually I kind of demanded it because it was like my dream and everything. And then he's saying like, for me, it's been good. I lived my dream. He says if there's a downside to that, well, maybe it's just that I was too young when I wanted to do this and everything. Who knows if I had like gotten older and hadn't been so obsessed with like being a hero or whatever, who knows what my dream would have been. Maybe it would have been different. So that's when Damien like takes his damn coffee away from him and he starts pouring it into like, I guess, regular checks or whatever. So he's saying like, there's no chocolate checks, so I have to make do with what I actually do have, and your iced mocha will do just fine. So he starts pouring that in there, and he says, now I find this exercise to be pointless, but it does allow me a platform to remind you all of this. I was born to be Robin, because he's like saying, I was not first, I did not graduate, I did not ask. I am the true son of Bruce Wayne, so I mean, obviously I was always going to end up in this role. And he says, unlike the rest of you who like have your own ideas of what being Robin is, I understand the solemn duty that comes with it. Being Robin means you're first in line to be Batman after he dies or retires, so I'm obviously going to be Batman after my father. So, because he's saying like, I will survive even at your expense. So then of course we go over to the other one, to Jason, and he's even sitting there just like, oh yeah, I'm sure everybody's wondering, wow, what's Jason gonna say, right? So he's like, well, let me go ahead and tell you, Green Underwear Squad. And he basically goes on to tell them, first things first, I was drafted into being Robin. I was a crook. I got busted stealing hubcaps from the Batmobile. I turned into a soldier in the war against crime. And then he just decides to slam his cup down for some reason. And then he say like, but like most soldiers do, I died. And then Batman said I wasn't allowed to die. So he says that, and he's like, so I came back to fight some more. But I ain't mad. I mean, not many people lived the life I've led, and died, and lived again. Not to mention, you're all lucky, really. He's like, if I hadn't become Robin, like, I'd probably be like a criminal kingpin right now, and y'all would probably be fighting against me. So he's saying like, yeah, you'd have to fight me. I guess there's still time. I mean, I bet kingpins never get yelled at for doing what they have to do, right, Dick? And he tells him like, I don't know. Do you think kingpins can also justify most anything as what they have to do? So that's when Jason's asking like, well, what are you trying to imply? And then we start hearing this like beeping going off because apparently Tim is just like monitoring shit. And so he's saying like, well, Dick is telling him, is this really the best time? So he's just saying like, sorry, I'm keeping like surveillance. I'm monitoring all kinds of different systems and everything. So he goes over and starts checking his thing and finds out like, oh shit, the bat computer is locked down, like completely shut out. So Damien gets on the phone and tries to call Bruce, but he's saying nothing from Batman. Father always picks up my calls. And then Stephanie notices that on the window, or I guess really on the AC unit, she sees that there's a Robin there, like an actual one sitting on the damn thing. So she's like, there's a Robin one, like a real one outside. Isn't that maybe a good omen? And then Tim is telling her, like, well, under most circumstances, maybe, but in many societies, like a robin on the windowsill apparently means death is about to come through and then we see where someone comes through the door about to die. So he kind of like, Damon immediately goes and like shoves him up against the wall and is like, why are you here? And if the answer isn't that you're an AC installer, then you just made a big mistake. So Dick comes over and is like trying to calm him down, tell him like, don't hurt him and shit. So the guy is saying like, no, not Damien, I need Dick Grayson. So he just kind of like throws him to Dick. He's like, he's fine, he's yours, he smells anyway. So he's saying like, Dick, they have it all. So I got your name from them, took your address, got away by playing them against each other, but they got the others. So he's like, I'm lost, man. Who? He says they got us out of Blackgate and then swept us all up. Garzonas, that Innocente creep, the Shadid girl. So that's when Stephanie turns over to Tim. She's like, Tim, isn't Innocente the name of, and he's like, yeah. And then he says, and Shadid, that's familiar. And Jason freaks out. I was like, did you say Garzonas? He's like, Felipe Garzonas? And he's like, it was Jose Garzonas. So he says, stop, he's confused and scared. Don't make it worse. So Dick like picks him up and he starts taking him over to go and sit down. He's like, let's start from the beginning. Who are you and who are you talking about? So that's when they fill him in and they're like saying like, yes, these are all of the villains that we first fought, like when we first took on the role of Robin. Steph is saying like, Ma'at Shadid is the assassin called Scarab. Jose Garzonas is a former ambassador from Bogotago. And then Tim says, and Mackensen Innocente is the Obeah man. They're from each of our very first cases as Robin. Batman called them our gauntlets. So that's when Dick kind of puts it together. He's like, oh, wait a minute, gauntlets? So that must make this Del Kane? And that's where he's telling him, like, yeah, kid, you got it right. Well, he calls him Robin Hood. He says, I didn't age too good, probably on account of all the bad I'd done to you and everyone else. I chased you around for Boss Manette back when you were in the Cape and fairy boots. But he's telling him, like, none of that matters now. Listen, what's coming for you is worse than anything I could ever do. True freaking evil. And then all of a sudden he gets shot from the back. So that's when they all kind of like start scrambling for cover, and Steph is saying like, the shot came from the window. Yeah, shot came through the window. Everyone get down. So they're like, someone's been watching us this entire time. And then I'm assuming Damien says, worse than that, Drake, someone knows who we are. All of us. So they say like, fan out, cover the rooftops. The bird, death came with the bird. So that's when the first Robin, we still don't know her name, is saying like, Del Kane didn't play his part in the show as well as the Anarchies. So he's been cut. And then she says, clearly I've taught you quite well, love. You're absolutely right. It's very poor form to assemble all of the Robins and not invite the very first one. So this is her in her Robin outfit. And I don't know. I mean, judging from the way that she speaks, she's very obviously like British or whatever. So I don't know. It doesn't look good. If you look at it, like the way she just has like the grease paint smeared across her eyes, like simulating the domino mask, and then the rest of her outfit is just kind of, yeah. So I don't know. That's what we got from this first issue of Robins. This was the story that won the whole competition or whatever, the round robin thing. So I don't know, like this just kind of feels like one of those storylines that's just kind of out of left field for no reason other than to subvert your expectations. You know what I mean? Like one of those situations where the company assumes like, oh, well, everybody already knows everything about the Robins. But what if they didn't? Like that type of shit, you know what I mean? Like if you were to be walking through like a damn convention or something, and they're like, hey kid, you know the Robins, right? Who was the first Robin? And you're just like, Dick Grayson. They're like, are you sure? It's like, come on now. Like, it's just, it's so lazy at this point. Like, there's no reason for this to like exist. If you want to tell some story about some like crazy chick who thinks she's Robin, you didn't have to do this whole thing about like, well, she's actually the very first one, or at least in her mind, she's the very first one. I get the feeling that's what this is going to end up being. Like, they're going to get all the way through this mystery, this fight with her and everything, and then come to find out, no, she wasn't actually the first Robin. She doesn't actually have any history with Batman. She was probably like in the UK and like saw Batman one time and came up with her own little persona or something. Like, it's gonna end up being something like that. Like, she has some sort of mental illness, like making her believe like, oh, I was the very first Robin. They were all just charlatans and everything. I get the feeling that's going to be the big reveal here, that she never actually had a role as a Robin. She just is insane and assumes that she does. So I'm pretty sure that's where this is going to end up. We'll see how they're going to actually get there, if they're trying to do this other thing with like this secondary plot thread of bringing in all of their like first time like villains or whatever the hell. I don't know. I don't really know how that's going to go either, but I guess we'll have to maybe wait and see. We'll see what happens. I might end up getting the rest of this series. I don't know that I'm going to, because this is not the last one where they sexualize the male Robins on the cover. I don't know that they did it for Stephanie. I think that they did, but it's more just her in like a tank top, and I think I remember she was just like boxing or something. I don't know. It was something like that. But I know for sure I've seen the one of Tim Drake where he's also shirtless and all sweaty and shit. And I think I saw the one of Jason. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't get the feeling I'll get that unless every time I end up at the store, like my local comic shop owner is just like, oh yeah, all the others like sold out. We saved you this one though. I'm just gonna be like, fine. I'm not mad. I'm definitely not mad at it, but I'm really not trying to collect those particular covers. It's just, it doesn't make that much of a difference to me. You know what I mean? But I don't know. Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening with this. So, I mean, if anybody out there has read this story, do feel free to share your thoughts with me down in the comments below. Even if you haven't read it, just share your thoughts on who the first Robin is. What do you think of that whole plot device? Do feel free to share that with me down below in the comments below. But I think that's going to do it for me on this video. So if you enjoyed it, definitely make sure to like the video. If you didn't, well, hey, you watched this far. I do appreciate that at the very least. Make sure that you are subscribed, share out the video if you are so inclined, because I do appreciate it. Hit the notification bell. That way you always know whenever I'm putting up new content, hopefully. Unless YouTube decides to kneecap me in that way too, but we'll find out. Anyway, guys, if you're done here, then go and read a book. And if not, then I'll see you on my next video.